To me, she seems very medicated. She seems like she's taken a few Klonopins.
That's a different season, Doug.
They're doing, I think, the Lamaze method or something.
Someone fill in the comments who has more information about this, because we have never had babies. We don't want to mansplain
and we've never had babies.
Birth. And then she sees that seated in Sid's office chair is none other than Garrison Ewing. She is not having it.
It's very disturbing.
Too soon. As much as she's trying to avoid it by keeping herself busy all day, you can't avoid it when you get into that bedroom and your partner is not there.
Welcome to Seaview Circle, our recap podcast in which we review our favorite television shows and movies of the past, present, and possibly the future. And we do this with the end goal of determining whether our viewing taste is highbrow or lowbrow.
Yes, and along the way, we also muse on vintage styles and fashions and filming locations, some of which may be lost to the decades. Now, before we get started on today's content, we want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. We are so very close at the time of this recording of getting 1,000 subscribers!
And what did you tell me earlier about 1,000 subscribers means that you're considered
officially
a YouTuber rather than just a pastime.
Right.
Whatever.
So who will be the one viewer that puts us over that goal? Will it be you?
I hope it is. Can you ring the bell? Notification
Whoever
bell?
it is, we are going to thank you so much in advance. All right? Thank you for putting us over that benchmark.
I do have a little side note, too, that I noticed that there's a lot of things going on with YouTube. I'm hearing this from a lot of YouTubers, that when you do subscribe and you go to the notifications, make sure you put all.
Yes.
Because there's something going on with the algorithm where they're like kicking people off and people aren't hearing about the new episodes. So you have to put all.
That's true, because we even had some of our longtime viewers just discover the episode that we put up like 3 weeks ago, right? The one about Sid passing away, the first 2 episodes of season 3. They didn't see the notification. So make sure you put all and you'll get the episode as soon as it drops. Now, we are going to continue forth with season 3 of Knots Landing, which is the longest running nighttime soap of the 80s. We are going to cover 2 episodes again today. This is episodes 3 and 4 of season 3. The first one that we're covering today is called Aftermath.
It's literally the aftermath
right.
of Sid's death.
Right. So this is a fabulous episode. We're going to get into it shortly. We want to let you know that the writers of this episode are Anne and Ellis Marcus. They must be a husband and wife duo. This is their first script for Knots Landing. And Diana Gold is also on this, and she's kind of like the overall script supervisor, I believe, for Knots Landing at this point. We also have the director of Kim Friedman, and this is her 5th episode directing Knots Landing. So shall we get started, Douglas?
Let's get moving. Actually, one of the first things I noticed when we turned the episode back on again to watch it is that Don Murray is no longer in the credits.
He's left the building. He's left the cul-de-sac.
I guess there's not going to be any flashbacks or anything.
That was quick.
Yeah.
We start off, though, at the funeral of
Yeah.
Sid Fairgate, presumably sometime, maybe 7 to 10 days after he passed away from the last episode. It's a very, wouldn't you say, a kind of a staid scene. There's not really
there's not
much.
a lot of activity. It's just your
Very traditional.
somber tone.
It's just the priest kind of talking very kind of standard things you would hear at a funeral. We don't, I think, get any dialogue from any of the characters. We do see, obviously, the Fairgates all together in that one shot. Everybody obviously is very sad.
But I gotta say,
black.
Karen was looking great. They've got some nice close-ups of her, and she just looks magnificent.
I would say her being a widow is really doing her wonders. She looks great already in these first 2 episodes.
She's so rested.
after Sid's death.
Exactly.
A couple things I thought as I was watching this is that they're wearing black, but if you notice, Abby is not wearing black.
Oh, yeah.
Abby could not be bothered to wear black in this moment. Come on.
Yeah.
And then there is a glaring omission because where is Sid's other daughter, Annie?
Oh, yeah. We don't see Annie.
I mean, I know she's a big star. I know Karen L is a big star, but that was kind of strange. They didn't even mention. I mean, they should have at least mentioned, I don't know. But I'm kind of happy that they did not dwell too much on this kind of funeral memorial moment. Because
we didn't get any of these,
that tends to drag things down, and this is the beginning of a new season.
You know how many times you've seen the funeral where, like, They throw the dirt down, and the people are like throwing
We've
themselves on the
seen it. We've
casket,
seen it.
which, it's not something we need to see.
Right. One thing that I was surprised to see, actually, is that Pat Peterson and Steve Shaw, they get some opening credits there, which I think makes sense because there's a lot to chew on for these actors in the Fairgate family in this episode. We are actually now going to jump ahead. What we hear is, I guess, 5 weeks now, right? We're in the kitchen at the Fairgates, and there is Michael reading the obituary.
Oh, yeah, and he's like,
this one's younger than Dad.
I totally relate to that because I would probably do the same thing back in that period.
Yeah.
I'd be looking like, because I don't want to read anything else in the daily news.
Diana thinks it's a little morbid, right?
Yeah.
But what we're seeing here already in these first opening scenes is that each remaining member of the Fairgate family is dealing with Sid's passing in a different way. Because, then they flash over to the garage, and there is Eric sitting in his father's hot rod.
Oh, that was tragic. Sobbing.
Yeah.
Right?
These are all these little things that each individual member of the family is going to have attachments to based on their individual relationships with Sid. And so that's why I think as we see the episode progress, they're not all on the same page of this grief. Not that they should be expected to be.
Especially Karen. She's
Karen.
just checked out. She's keeping brave face the whole time.
She sure is. And would you expect anything less of Karen Fairgate, right?
I would not.
She is strong.
Stoic.
So even when they're taking Sid's memorial photo out of the window of Knots Landing Motors, it doesn't really register. You're not seeing some moment of anything really.
But they do show that when she goes into Sid's office, at some point she needs to get something from the desk. So obviously she's been avoiding the office. So she goes into the office and you can see she's shaken.
Right. There's all the family photos, the photo of she and Sid, the photo of Michael that looks probably like you did at that age.
Yeah, I can find one of those if you need one of those.
Now, the main meat of this particular sequence is that she's there at Knots Landing Motors to tell the staff, and who I guess Sid referred to as his second family, that Knots Landing Motors is not going to close and that she has every intention of running it and making it successful.
Right. And she seemed pretty humble, too. She's like, I know I'm not an expert and I might ask you questions. But, essentially reassuring everybody there that
they all have a job.
Right. Everybody's going to be good. So, it's just regrouping and let's get this thing going.
Right. And this is where we actually hear the established time frame that has been 5 weeks since Sid's death. And I'm happy that they did that because obviously in the world of nighttime soap operas, we have a summer hiatus and we have to justify this time jump, particularly when one of your main cast members has been pregnant and is about to have a baby. It helps to ease that confusing time jump there.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were just saying about how Karen is honest. She's honest with everybody saying, I'm going to need some help. We then have Miss Abby following Karen up to the office. And she says, well, Karen, if you need help, I can help you. Yeah. I've been the bookkeeper here for the past year or whatever. Whatever you need, I'll help. What was Karen's response?
Karen has pretty much said, you're basically not welcome here.
Right? She can't let Abby help because she doesn't want anything shady going on anymore at Knots Landing Motors. And Abby says something like, oh, well.
Everybody fiddles the books.
Yeah. and that's when Karen says, well, not here anymore.
So that was she's put the kibosh on Abby.
And I think Abby was a little devastated there because she is still without her children, right? Her children are still missing. This is now 5 weeks later of the children still being missing.
Right.
She's grieving Sid.
Right.
She wanted that job to have something to hold on to.
Right. So she essentially is saying that she's got nothing at that point.
But Karen does say to her, because obviously she can see that Abby is hurting, that she is absolutely welcome to spend more time at their house right now while she's in this fragile state with her children not being around. Right. So we will see some of that in the next couple episodes.
She just doesn't want her work.
Just not at Knots Landing Motors.
It's kind of, I think, good for Abby to have that after what she did.
Well, I agree. And it probably also fuels her again into this trajectory that we will see throughout the rest of Knots Landing. And that moment when Karen shuts her down and says, I'm sorry, I just do not trust you. It is that kind of spark that we will see in all these future scenarios with those two, which they never should be working together, right? They don't even really like each other. They are related to one another through Sid, who is now gone, and yet they always seem to be working together. So it's this really interesting relationship that obviously the actresses who portray these two characters love, right? They are friends, but they love to not be friendly on the show. It's great. A lot of good stuff to look forward to in that.
Back at the cul-de-sac, and up rolls the butter yellow Pinto with Valine driving, and then we see Ginger. Obviously very pregnant. Yeah. Like ready to go.
Very pregnant and sort of struggling with some groceries. So I think there's this moment where Ginger says, oh, I can't let Kenny see me doing this because he's being so overprotective. And she recalls back to The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck, which I read several times in school, about how the women out in the rice fields, hey, they would just drop the baby. They'd be fully 9 months pregnant, still working out in the fields. They just drop the baby out, and get right back to work. Right. And you're just like, I'm good.
And then like 2 seconds later, rolls up the Trans Am, and it's Kenny.
Right.
And of course, he sees that Ginger has a bag, and he is Mr. Overprotective Father, doesn't want anything to go wrong, and he's like, oh, you shouldn't be carrying anything. And we see a lot of that. The whole episode is pretty much Kenny wanting to make sure that every little thing is taken care of.
Right, because I think the idea here is that we're getting very close. I think there might even be a mini contraction in that first scene.
It's kicked or something. And so she starts timing it, and she's like, I don't know, it's like...
She's like, it's still early days.
12, 15 minutes, whatever. It's not time yet. But, of course, Kenny is just like super panicky. And I'm sure like any first-time parent would probably be the same way.
And especially after everything that he's been, had been doing in seasons 1 and 2 with Sylvie and all that stuff, they're trying to rebuild that relationship. He's trying to be there really solid for Ginger. All right, so we head back over to Knott's Landing Motors, and we have Richard popping in. He's there because he wants to invite Karen out to dinner, cheer her up, potentially. I think he's probably also a little bit bored because we've heard that Laura is kind of busier with real estate now. And then is it Michael who calls?
Yeah, Michael calls and it's like, Mom, when are you going to come home? And she's like, oh, when I finish up, blah, 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 blah. But I think it was like already 6 o'clock.
Because doesn't Diana, she's cooking the dinner. So Karen feels like the dinner's going to be there. But I guess she turns Richard down because she feels bad that like they're asking her to be there, right? I mean, she's keeping herself busy maybe to distract herself from her own feelings, but also what it appears to be, as we see throughout the episode, the feelings of her children.
Yeah.
Richard makes a joke, though, like, oh, don't worry about your kids. They're great fenders. Meaning like, fending for themselves, latchkey children. Really, it's like us in the 80s, we were all latchkey children. But then Karen kind of forgets in a way that Sid's dead. She says something like, oh, yeah, well, they get that from their father or something like that. A fender, car joke or whatever. But anyway, when she turns Richard down, Richard says something like, oh, well, I guess I'll just go home and sit in the dark. And I think it's like foreshadowing for that character later in the season.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to that.
All right, okay. At first, it seems very peaceful at the Avery household when Richard gets back.
Head straight to the bar cart.
Straight to the bar cart. At first, you're thinking, oh, like nobody's home.
Right.
Then the next second, you start hearing this terrible trombone, and it's Jason. And I guess Jason is learning the trombone. I can relate to that, too. I mean, I was playing the trumpet, but I certainly did not play that bad. Okay.
They do some cliche jokes here because Laura comes in as well, and she's like, oh, because he says, oh, I'm practicing a song, and she's like, that was a song?
Yeah, what is that song? I forget.
He goes, it's The Sound of Music. And she goes, yeah. And then he goes, no, the song.
Yeah, she's like, oh. What? It's just literally like...
He says that, he goes, well, you can really only hear the song when other people are playing alongside me. Anyway, it's cute. And I think we're kind of, again, establishing that things at the Avery house, at least for now, are still kind of light and airy. Because, again, we have to have these two who've had such a tumultuous relationship in the first 2 seasons. We have to get her pregnant again.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we're building towards before we can start unraveling the relationship again. But I guess there is some talk about how Karen is really putting up a brave face. That's the message that is being delivered in this scene.
So we're back at the kitchen in the Fairgate house, and of course Diana is cooking this great dinner. She's making chicken and like, what else? Carrots.
Right.
Something
it's
like
a full
that.
meal, right?
She's really trying hard to take care of things that Mom can't take care of.
Right. It's a responsibility that she's been given, and she feels that's something that she can really contribute to the family.
And of course, you can see that she's getting a little irritated because her brothers don't seem to really appreciate what she's doing there.
Right. You can tell that the family, they're talking to each other, but they're not talking to each other.
Yeah, they're just going through the motions. It's
like small talk. You know, it's very surface level stuff. And so what happens is Karen suggests that Eric cut the bird because that's what the man of the household does, and he is now the man of the household. And Diana's like, "Are you sure? Like he should do that or whatever?"
She made this she's been cooking this chicken for hours,
and Eric's not sure he can do it.
Right,
you know,
but
he's kind of nervous.
He tries, but he literally desecrates the whole thing. I think don't they pull out a big bone? He just didn't know how to.
Diana is horrified during all of this, and she actually is trying to get her mom to scold him, which it's not really his fault. But what this is, it's just showing again that Karen is struggling to keep the peace here. She's struggling to keep all these balls in the air, especially when she's not dealing with her own emotions.
Yeah, she's very blasé about it too. She's like, "Oh, well, just let him do whatever." To me, she seems very medicated. She seems like she's taken a few Klonopins.
Yeah, that's a different season, Doug.
No, but I'm just saying it's they reference the Stepford Wives.
Oh,
the kids later on, they say that. But I mean, that is actually what Karen is giving.
Yeah.
It's very Stepford. It's very oh, everything is great.
Right, because Diana is really cornering her a couple times in this episode. Some really dramatic scenes with great acting between the two where she's asking her mother to have a conversation with her about everything that they're going through. And she is just not giving her anything. I think before that happens, she's saying to the family, "Don't worry about the chicken. We can take a leg. We can do whatever." And then Eric's like, "I'm not hungry." And he storms off.
Well, and when you're at that age, you would all be like that anyway. Let's face it. It's going to be more heated.
And again, like I say with Diana, I think that she's trying to do her part. And I'm sure all the kids think that maybe in their own way, they're doing their part. But they're also expecting their mother to do her part. And they also have other things that are on their mind, which is what happens, I think, in the next sequence, right? We see Karen going up to her own bedroom. She stops at the door. She looks in. It's empty. And there's a look on her face. It's like it's a chore for her to even go into her bedroom.
Yeah, you could tell.
It's a visual reminder of what isn't there. As much as she's trying to avoid it by keeping herself busy all day, you can't avoid it when you get into that bedroom and your partner is not there.
Right.
So Michael comes in and startles her, and she flips out.
Yeah.
She's like, "Go to bed, go to bed."
What are you doing?
And Michael runs, and then immediately she feels bad. So she goes into his bedroom to apologize. And it's then when, this is a great scene, where Michael reveals to her what he's really afraid of,
right.
Which, how old is he at this point? 12, 13?
I'd say probably 12. Yeah, and he says basically, "Well, what happens when you die, Mom?" They're fearful that because this has happened to them while they're young.
So unexpected.
Yeah. And I think she reassures him. She says, "Oh, I'm not going to be dying for a very long time. So just don't worry about that." So she kind of is redeeming herself a little bit as far as getting a little bit more
in touch with what's going on here.
But it's a journey.
It's a journey. And we can confirm, Michael Fairgate, that your mother is still around to this day. She's still with us. She's still with us.
She
did not lie.
We're not done yet.
She's doing We're Not Done Yet podcast
She's
with
still there.
your aunt and your neighbor.
Yeah.
Now we're back over at the wards where they're timing the contractions, right? Because they're getting closer together. And, Kenny is just super, super lovey-dovey in this movie. So excited. But I think Ginger's starting to realize, okay, this hurts. This is going to be a lot of work. This is going to be hard. So yeah, they decide to go to the hospital, and we have this kind of cliche moment, right? Where they leave in the car and they're all excited. Whenever they get ready to go, they pull out of the driveway and they leave the suitcase.
And it's a yellow suitcase, funnily enough.
So they cram that suitcase and they head off to the hospital because she is going into labor. And we'll pick back up on that a little bit later on.
So next morning, we're outside of the Fairgate house and we see Sid's hot rod is actually like hitched up and being towed away. And this guy is paying Karen money for it. And so Eric sees this and he's just like, what is going on? And she's like, oh, well, we don't have any need for this anymore. There's no sentiment at all. It's very cut and dry, like, yeah, well,
I thought that was a little strange.
It was a little weird.
And again, like I said earlier, maybe her relationship to Sid is a little different than obviously Eric's relationship to his father. And we all know that in season 2 that Karen was a little avoidant of not sliding motors and all the things that were going on with his engine. So maybe she doesn't see that connection. But we also did see so many times in other episodes where she was literally talking to him as he was working on that car. Like you'd think she'd have a little bit more attachment to that. Now, it has been 5 weeks. But...
Right, but I felt very bad because obviously they showed that this was how Eric found his place to connect with his father.
Yeah.
Was in the car.
Right.
And here she is just selling it. It's almost like selling somebody's gravestone. I mean, this is his way of grieving.
I agree.
This is where he goes. So it's very insensitive.
And he confronts her about it.
Yeah.
And he says, why didn't you tell me you were going to do that? And she says, it never occurred to me.
Yeah, it never occurred to me. It's really like, oh, okay.
Oh, jeez.
Well, obviously, Karen is still not in touch completely.
Well, this is a problem that's going to continue really all through the season, let's be honest. But this is really where we're getting into the weeds of it. Right next to this kerfuffle between Eric and Karen is Diana, who I'm just giving a shout out to because she looks fantastic. That look is going to be in our top fashion moments of season 3. It was a great look. All right, now we're going to pop over to the Ewings finally. We have not really spent any time with them. We are in the kitchen where, I don't know if it's this episode or the next, but they actually have these same pot holders, which I was so excited. I always thought that these were an ethnic thing from my family's background. They were part Slovakian. I always thought these were like.
Did you Google it? Would that use a Google lens
to
find out?
I didn't.
Because that's the way to find out.
Right. We have a viewer who's into the vintage dishware. Val, do you know anything about these? Do these look familiar?
She can tell us a few things, I'm sure.
Let us know in the comments below. We have a kind of a pickup really with the conversation from the last episodes between Gary and Val. Gary, by the way, is drinking that orange juice. We've already established this is his favorite drink. And
he
there
loves
he is
orange
doing
juice,
it again.
freshly squeezed.
But we see here that Val can sense that Gary is still feeling guilty. The fact that obviously now Sid has died, so it's even worse. He's got this like scowl on his face. Is this this scene where he's wearing the red version of this shirt?
Yes,
and then he has the little khaki overshirt.
Oh, with the little epaulets.
Right.
I was eyeing that up.
Yeah.
'Cause I love a short sleeve, kind of military style.
Right. So what's interesting here is that Val is now suggesting to Gary that Karen is partially responsible for Sid's death now because she allowed Sid to have that surgery. She signed the document that allowed for that to happen because remember, Sid was paralyzed and technically he couldn't sign the document. Before, remember in season 2, Val was so upset with Gary and now she's trying to get the grief and the guilt off of Gary because maybe she fears that he'll go back to drinking or whatever. So she's really trying to convince him to move on because apparently, according to Richard and her own viewing of Karen's behavior, Karen's moved on. That's what appears to everybody else.
Well,
and then it's interesting because then we move over to the Fairgate kitchen and we have, again, Diana addressing the same issue with her mother. Like, what's going on here, Mom?
Yeah, why aren't you emoting? Why aren't you feeling anything? Like, nobody's talking about anything.
She says the first bad thing to happen, the worst thing to happen was Dad passing away. But the second worst thing is what is done to this family.
Yeah.
Nobody is talking to one another. And it's just so weird because you would think, as a mother being addressed by your child who is clearly upset that you would want to do something. She consoled Michael, but she's not able to console Diana.
No.
Right? And it builds so much to the point where Diana is wondering if the reason why she's not grieving is because she's mad at Sid.
Doesn't Karen say that? She's
Yeah.
like, I'm angry at him. I'm really angry at him.
Yeah, she says she's angry at him because of his lousy morality, right? We talked about this in the last episode. Where does that leave us? Well, we don't have the answer really in that moment, but we can see from the episode in a broader sense and even this whole season where it leaves them, right? It leaves them in shambles. They are going to be dealing with this for quite some time.
It's early days.
Nothing's resolved. Nothing's resolved.
Episode 3 out of how many?
Here.
What, 24 episodes?
But wouldn't you say that up until now, Diana and Karen have been pretty tight? They haven't really had any major arguments. They've been pretty much in sync. But I think this is the moment where we start to see the fracture that is going to continue.
The ship is going to leave the port, so to speak.
Right. So this is the beginning, and it's very dramatic, right? All right, so this is all juxtaposed with these, I don't know if I want to call them sweet necessarily, but these scenes over at the hospital of Ginger in labor. And
it's graphic.
There's that moment where they return back again, and she's like in this like weird position. It was like note to self, I don't need to see that.
Yeah, I don't need to see that.
But okay, so Kenny's like, Kenny, I don't know, he's like trying to help, but he's also like mansplaining a little bit.
And I think at that point, she says, I'm in a lot of pain. What kind of drugs can you give me to the doctor?
And he's like, oh, none. No,
he's like,
no drugs. No drugs for you.
It's like he's trying to control her body, which is really crappy,
I didn't like it, Kenny. I don't need to see that.
I was pissed.
Eventually, though, the doctor does come in, and when the doctor could see how much pain that Ginger is in, and how, she's sweating, she's working hard for this, right? He's like, okay, we got you. The nurses are going to hook you up. So eventually, she's much more, I guess, in rhythm of what she needs to do to get this.
They're doing, I think, the Lamaze method or something,
Please, again, someone fill in the comments who has no more information about this, because we have never had babies. Want to mansplain.
And we've never had babies, so we could get it wrong. We don't know anything about that.
I actually was present at the time. Well, not at the time of my nephew's birth, but very shortly thereafter. I will say it is a very sort of it's once or twice, 3 times in a lifetime. Maybe sometimes it's more. Some people have a lot of kids, but it's a very magical moment that this couple is sharing. So we're happy. We're happy.
I say good for them.
We're good.
That's all I can say.
Exactly.
Good for them. Good for you guys.
All right, now we're going to move back over to Knots Landing Motors. We have a surprise appearance here. We have a guest star in a small role here. This is someone playing a character named Mrs. Ellis, and I was curious if maybe she was named that because one of the writers of this episode is Ellis, right?
Most likely. You've got that on. You got it.
Anyway, this is sort of like a longtime customer of Knots Landing Motors, and she's demanding to see Sid.
Yeah, she's I want to see Sid.
Yeah.
He sold me the last 3 cars, and I need to see him.
She's not taking no for an answer when the other person that's working there is trying to sort of gloss over the fact that he's no longer there because, he wants to retain the business. This actress, do you recognize her at all? This is Peggy Pope. Peggy Pope portrayed Margaret in the film 9 to 5, which is one of my all-time favorite films.
Right, okay.
She plays the drunk.
Oh, I
Remember?
love her, yeah.
So every time that Dora Lee, Judy, and Violet are going off to the bar, she says,
"Atta girl."
Yeah, she slurs. She's there. Right. And then if you remember by the end of the movie, after Franklin Hart has been kidnapped and tied up for weeks, and they go through and reform all the programs in the office, she is now reformed. She's gone to AA and she's cleaned up her act.
Because they paid for her AA.
Right. So I love seeing her in this. And I do think it's interesting because I mentioned last season in season 2 that I felt like Karen was embodying Lily Tomlin's character of Violet Newstead in some of the clothing choices. I believe 9 to 5 came out at the very end of 1980. So that would have made sense that and it was a very popular movie. And now here we have the character of Karen as a single mother, just like Violet Newstead. I don't remember if Violet was a widow or if she was just had been divorced from her husband. But at any rate, Karen definitely gives me some of those same
It's
vibes.
around the same period.
Yeah,
I mean, this is 1981,
right.
but maybe it was
It's right
filmed-
after.
Yeah, so it would have been filmed maybe
It's
in
an
1980.
influence is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's an influence comes directly from that movie, I feel, especially in, again, some of these outfits that Karen is wearing, including in this scene, she's wearing that black shirt with the white polka dots. And again, she's kind of like in control, just like Lily Tomlin's character. So I think that's really interesting.
Do you ever wonder if Michelle Lee tried out for something like 9 to 5?
Oh.
That would be interesting.
That is interesting.
Can we ask you that question?
Oh, yes. Michelle,
Did you ever,
we
what
would
other
like
movies
to-
did you try out for around that
we would
period?
like to interview if you're listening.
She was probably too tied up with the television
Right,
show, though.
of course.
But it would have been a good,
Right.
you know, I could see it.
I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. Now, I think in that moment, she says to Mrs. Ellis, don't worry, we got you covered. We'll work this out, whatever. She then proceeds back over to Sid's office. And she starts breaking down as soon as the door closes. And then she sees that seated in Sid's office chair is none other than Garrison Ewing.
She's not having it.
She is not having it.
No, she absolutely. It's very disturbing.
Too soon.
Flips out. She's screaming and she's like
She
slapping
says,
him.
"Get out!"
Yeah,
She's punching him.
I was shocked because I don't
Fists
think
are flying.
I didn't remember it being as graphic as it was, and seeing it again, I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah,
it was pretty disturbing.
Intense.
She flipped.
She flipped. He leaves, and then the camera work just zooms in on her sitting in the chair, and she is flipping out. So I think this is a moment where we're seeing a crack. We saw the crack. There's a crack right there.
Well, the dolls crack.
Well, the dolls crack. Under the pressure. That's
the pressure.
a deep Drag Race Untucked reference, if you got it. Anyway, loved that. I love that scene. I think it probably already, I can say, is my favorite scene of this particular episode. Now, we move back over to the Fairgates, and we have a scene between Eric and Diana. Again, this is just kind of more of the same. We're seeing here that the family is fractured because Diana, once again, is cooking. I think she even asks Eric to help her this time, and Eric's like, "Oh, no, I'm going out." And so they have a conversation about how everybody is kind of walking around just acting fake, kind of like what you're talking about earlier with the dining room scene where they're eating and everybody's just doing small talk, right? That's where there's that reference to the Stepford Wives.
Yeah, that comes in later. Right?
Which is so ironic because, as we mentioned in our last episode about Don Murray leaving, that he eventually co-starred with Barbara Eden in the TV movie The Stepford Children.
The Stepford Children. Oh, we should watch that one. Put that on the list for maybe tonight.
Right. So we're really seeing here, again, that nobody is relying on one another. Nobody is grieving. Nobody is actually processing what has been going on within all of them over the last 5 weeks. And again, as we said, it will continue.
So we have Gary coming back home.
After that incident.
After the incident.
Yeah, and he's splashing water in his face in the sink.
Yeah, he's probably got to get those little
marks
off.
Val's like, what's going on? What's going on?
And he tells her that Karen hit me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
he says that it's the most honest thing that Karen has done since Sid died. And Val is just like, oh my gosh, like, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. What does he say to her? He says, you need to grow up.
Yeah,
to Val.
you need to grow up and stop forgiving me, because he wants to take some of this blame, you know, instead of her always being like, oh, it's okay, you can do whatever you want, and you don't.
He feels that
wrong.
she's just sweeping everything under the rug,
Yeah.
which is what we are all sensing as well.
Yes.
And then she says something like, what, do you want me to punch you as well? Right? That's what she feels like that's what the consternation is building. But anyway, he says he's going back to work, and she's like, what?
Well, he says something like, she punched me, but she didn't fire me.
Right.
So then he heads back.
Right. And then, of course, we do need him still working at Non-Sliding Motors for his storyline to progress in season 3.
Plus, he's the only one that knows what's going on, really.
Right. Let's just hope he doesn't buy any more stolen parts.
Yeah, no more stolen parts and no more gangsters.
All right, now back over at the hospital, I believe Ginger has finally delivered this baby, and Kenny is so happy to see that the baby has brown hair.
Well, and it was weird because they did that typical Hollywood thing, though. The baby, its head is coming, it's got the cord around the neck, which both of us had, and then like 2 seconds
Explains
later,
everything.
They deliver it. They show you this beautifully clean baby. I mean, the baby did look like a real newbie, though.
Yeah. Oh, here.
Because it wasn't like...
This is why this is here. This is Erin Molly. Introducing
Erin
Molly.
Erin Molly.
Okay.
No, but you know what I mean. At least they didn't give you a baby that was 3 months old.
Right. Already walking.
Yeah. Or a doll.
That's what they do nowadays.
Crying.
They have it swaddled up and there's no movement whatsoever, but the baby is fully crying and they're reacting, but there's like literally no movement.
And it weighs like 1 pound.
Yes.
It's like styrofoam. I love that.
All right, now we're going to go back one more time over to the Ewing household because we have Karen showing up to apologize to Val for beating up her husband. And you can see that Val's kind of ticked off a little bit, that this was the reaction that her bestie, had to her husband, who, in Val's mind, she thinks that Karen is now partly to blame.
There was a lot of shade going down.
There was some shade. So I think finally, though, these two are besties and they're going to get back together here. So Val says to her, like, are you okay? And I think Karen's response is, well, ask me in a couple years. Right? So she admits that she is terrified and that she has all these kind of emotions swirling inside her. So I think that is a valid response, that everybody grieves differently, and she has been keeping herself busy, and so she has not been able to process any of this. She says to Val, I keep waiting for Sid to just return or show up and say that this has all been a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people who dealing with grief like that have the same feeling.
And I think that it took Val to say to Karen, okay, well, you trying to remain so strong, to remain so solid, is hurting the people that you still have in your life who you love. And I think that was sort of an eye-opener for her. So leave it to Val to bring in
Thank you, Val.
the words that Karen needed to hear in that moment. I guess the kids didn't get that message across.
So then we go back to the hospital, probably later in the day, or maybe, we don't know quite yet. But Kenny and Ginger are with the newborn, and who do we have come visit?
It's a surprise to me, right? We have Karen arriving to see the new baby. And pretty quickly, I think Ginger tells her, or maybe it's Kenny, I can't remember, that they have decided to have Karen be
the godmother.
The godmother.
Yeah.
So here we have this circle of life moment, which really brings it home. And I don't know if it's Kenny who offers to have...
Well, I think Ginger really demands...
Ginger says, let her
hold it. And Kenny is being a little like, oh, you don't have to hold the baby.
And Ginger's like, no, let her do it.
Yeah.
Because Ginger already knows, even in the day or so that she's been a mother, she's already feeling what that connection's like. She knows what a powerful thing that will be for Karen. So even when Karen takes the baby and she starts sobbing pretty quickly. I mean, she's smiling at first.
Yeah.
And Kenny's like, and Ginger said, no, let her. And then she just...
lets it all out.
Yeah,
it was very sad.
I cried a little bit.
Yeah, I did too.
Second episode in a row.
I know. Call us old homosexuals.
Oh, not too old. Not too old.
But no, I mean,
we're going to do something a little differently this time before we get to the next episode. We're going to give our brow meter score right now for this first episode.
Look, I got it down here.
The brow meter, of course, is our gauge of how highbrow or lowbrow an individual episode or maybe an entire series is. This time we are going to give our brow meter score for episode 3 of season 3. This is Aftermath. What did you think?
I thought it was pretty good and pretty deep. So out of a 5, I give it a 3.5.
Nice. I'm a little bit harsher. Always. I give it a 3. I thought it was very solid. The Fairgate scenes, it really were solid. Maybe the other stuff less so, but I will say that one scene of Karen beating up, I can only use those words, beating up Gary was really great. And I do think we do need to sort of push through that storyline. Val says we need to, and I think as an audience, we also need to, because we need to move beyond that consternation so we can get forward with more stuff into season 3. So really thought it was good. I thought the acting was great. Again, from Michelle Lee and the kids. Enjoyed seeing Pat Peterson shine in that one scene. We also saw, of course, Steve Shaw and Claudia all give really great performances. So good job.
Yep.
Now let's move ahead to the next episode.
It's going to be episode 4. entitled Moving In. The writer is Ann Marcus. This is her second script for Knots Landing.
After the last one we just were talking about.
And then the director is Joseph B. Wallenstein. And this is the second episode of his direction as well.
Right. He also wrote, I think, The Loudest Word. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's also a producer on these early seasons, I believe. Now, we start off in Abby's boudoir.
Yes, and it looks really great. I love her place so much.
Yeah.
I love all that wallpaper. But we hear the old-fashioned phone ring, and so she picks up, and it's Olivia's voice.
Thank God,
and it's
finally.
Like, for a hot second, and she says something like, come get us, and then
we miss you.
Yeah, and then it hangs up. So
this reminded me of Poltergeist.
Yeah, totally.
When Carol Ann is in the TV and Jo Beth Williams is trying to talk to her because there's this panic in Abby, like, oh my gosh, because she gets cut off really quickly. And there's this fear in her face. Of course, she's in a towel, by the way, because this is Abby. You know what I mean? We've got to have some sex appeal there.
And it is kind of interesting because often in the show, when they have the person talking on the phone, you don't hear the voice back. But in this particular case, they finally did that. I do love that.
That choice of whether or not you hear the other person or you don't hear the other person.
Right. So you do hear
Sometimes
Olivia.
In the same episode, it'll be different. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And now we move out to the cul-de-sac the same morning, I'm assuming. It is Val jogging in her Adidas tracksuit, which is why
It's very mustard velour.
I guess Laura is leaving for the day. Again, we get the same interaction. She keeps kind of reiterating that she is now busy because Scooter is preoccupied with his wife. So again, Laura is going to be more invested in the real estate. Because I think it's Val who's inviting Laura over to watch Gary's new TV commercial for Knots Landing Motors.
Oh, yeah. That's exciting.
And Gary says he's really embarrassed. He really wishes that Val would not have invited everybody over because he says that he felt very stiff while recording the commercial.
Did he say something like he wasn't an actor or he said something about actors?
He says, I felt like my mouth was full of marbles.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Anyway, I love this scene because it shows Val sort of like stretching on the Ewing's front fence there. And then when you see the scrolling boxes of the intro, it appears as though she's like pulling the box the way they have it kind of edited there. I wonder what that technology was to make those opening sequences like that. It's very rudimentary, but I think it was clever.
Too bad my dad's not alive because he could tell me.
Exactly.
Well, guess what? We open up the next scene, and it's a surprise.
Well, not really a surprise.
Guess who's back?
Because her name's in the credits, the guest star credits.
But I was excited.
I wish they wouldn't have done that. I wish they would have saved the guest star credit to the end, this time only, just to give you that surprise that we're going to see Miss Julie Harris returning in her role as Lilimae Clements. We love her. You people out there who don't like Lilimae.
Some people don't like her, but I love her.
What's your problem? She's an excellent actress.
We even brought out little Maggie and Jeremiah.
Little Jeremiah. This is Val's father there, right? we say that's Val's father, Papa. Now, funnily enough, this episode that we're about to watch has a lot of callbacks to the first episode that introduced the Lilimae character. That is, will the circle be unbroken? And that, just for all you Seaview Circle fans out there, that was the last episode where we were audio only. I mean, we had the video with the slides, but that was the last one where we did not actually appear on camera. So it was a long time ago, almost 2 years ago, believe it or not.
Dang.
Anyway, we will touch upon elements of that episode in a little bit. But for now, we have Lilimae. What is she doing in this hotel room?
She's in a hotel room, it appears, and she's putting her belongings into like a hefty trash bag. Yes. And then you see, of course, the auto harp case is coming back.
Love an auto harp.
Yeah, love an auto harp. So
it feels like a get out of Dodge moment a little bit, right? She's kind of scurrying and she's putting everything into this trash bag.
But very carefully.
Yeah, yes. She places it in the trash can in the hallway. So you're like, okay, what is going down here?
And then she's at the front desk. Isn't she stopped by
the front desk clerk?
Person, and he says something like, "Oh, where are you going?"
Because she has her suitcase with her, right?
Yeah, like you owe, I forget how much money,
right? She hasn't paid her bill, right?
Yeah, she's not paid her bill,
and she says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be back. I'm just going to take my clothes to the laundromat." That's what the suitcase is, And he says, I'm going to take those until you pay your bill, right? Isn't that what happens?
Like that.
Something like that. obviously she's already figured that the rest of her belongings are going to be carted out to the trash by the janitor. And we do see like a short scene of that confirming that. So when she comes outside, she goes to the trash and she gets her auto harp and whatever items were there. She doesn't have the clothes though, obviously. The clothes now were confiscated, right? Now, we didn't really catch this at the time where this was the hotel.
Yeah, it said it was the Royalton Hotel.
Yeah.
But isn't it like an apartment building?
I think so. I think that what really tipped us off was the park scene that follows a little bit later on.
Yeah,
it really looked like Pasadena, right?
Yeah, I might have written down the name of the... Castle Green Apartments.
Okay.
And that other is South Raymond, and that's Memorial Park in Pasadena. Park. Yeah.
Right. And if you caught one of our previous episodes, we were talking about how David Jacobs had mentioned that when you're filming a show like this, you've got so many different scenes, you will look for locations where you can bang out 3 different scenes like right in a row. So this was great. It's all on Raymond Street in Pasadena. Yeah. Shout out to Teletalk again, always coming through with these exact addresses and stuff for these Not Sliding episodes. Anyway, we do see her getting her auto harp and she finds a shopping cart. Yeah. So she's on her way to where?
Well, she ends up in the park,
right?
Sitting on a park bench,
right?
And then it's funny because these kids are playing near her, and she's like she's really irritated because
they're really selling. She's looking like a hobo. What is the song?
She's looking like a hobo.
And they're selling that even with some like honky tonk country music in the background. It's like she's falling on hard times. Miss Lilimae. She got her shopping cart. She sees another bag lady. I'm just using the terms that are in the episode, and she kind of sees, okay, this is where people can hang out, I guess. And then there is a purse snatcher who runs up and steals the purse from the other bag lady that is looking through the trash nearby. And Lilimae cannot stand for that.
Lilimae to the rescue.
Yes. And so she calls the cops, right? There's a cop nearby, and then the cop's chasing her, and then...
Lilimae takes her cart, and she pushes the cart, and what happens is it just magically happens to be like right where the guy is
Perfect
running,
aim.
who stole the bag, and he falls on the ground, and then they capture him. The police get him. So
it's a great story.
Right, she foiled the robbery.
Right. It's a great story, and that is what really is going to catapult
And of course,
this
that's going to
further.
be on Eyewitness News tonight, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. Meanwhile, we have Val heading over to Abby's.
Val is on her way out to go to class.
Right. Writing class.
And Abby is like, the same old story. Oh, Val, I really need your help. I've got to go down to meet this group of people. What is it exactly? They're like the kidnapped survivor people,
right? Or it's just some network where they can try to track down people. Here's the thing: we know that from season 2, Abby's always relying on other people for all these different things. But in this instance, I'm going to give her a free pass. It's been 5 weeks. This is the first contact she's had with Olivia.
Right. She doesn't want to leave the
someone
phone.
To stay by the phone.
Right. And this is pre-cell phone, obviously.
Right.
So it's not like you can bring your phone with you.
Right.
But you have to stay at home.
But the part that is very Abby is that she just happens to be polishing her silverware, and then she leaves it there. And what is Val going to do while she's waiting by the phone? Well, she's going to polish the silverware for her, Abby.
Built-in silverware polisher.
Well, now...
She should have left her a pile of laundry, too.
Yeah, she said, oh, yeah, and by the way...
you could just do all that while you're sitting here.
All right, so now we are going to have our little unveiling of the new commercial. I believe it's called the Car Bonanza. It's the Car Bonanza commercial. This reminds me of... I think we talked about this in Land of the Free back in season 1, where they first talked about the idea of doing a commercial, and it was like, was it Cal Worthington?
Yeah, Cal
thing,
Worthington,
right? He's the cowboy guy. Yeah, this is very that. And so we have everybody really excited. What have they made? Like, I don't know, hors d'oeuvres. Not sure what it was.
Party snacks.
And then, of course, Ginger and Kenny come over with Erin Molly, and everybody's seeing the baby for the first time. There's a really funny line that Abby gives. She goes, oh, she's finally lost that pinched look.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, and by the way, Laura is sitting there and she's wearing that gorgeous ruffled top. She actually, I think the actress Constance McCashin took promotional photos wearing that exact outfit, and her hair is just looking amazing. We're going to see a lot of Laura this season, and we're very happy about that. Now, we watched the commercial, and is it true? I mean, was Gary an actor? Was he stiff?
He was a little stiff. He wasn't the best, but he was okay.
Yeah, he was okay.
Yeah, he wasn't, he wasn't giving you full...
what I liked about
Ted
this
Shackelford.
scene when they're showing everybody sitting there watching this commercial, it's the reaction you would expect from a group of people. They're all like talking over him, like they're not really even watching it or listening, which I thought was kind of funny. But I guess they're also trying to set up that after the commercial's over and we cut to, as you said, the news coverage of
Right,
this.
isn't it? Richard is watching. They're all chatting, and then he sees something on the news that looks interesting to him, and he turns the volume up.
Yeah.
And then,
it's Bag Lady Bags Crook or something like that. But I don't think that Val even picks up on it until she hears her mother's voice.
Right,
It is unmistakable.
Val is already PO'd again, like, what is she doing here?
Right. And it's funny because they ask some personal interest stuff about Lilimae, and she already mentions, oh, yeah, I was on tour with Mother Maybelle Carter and all this stuff. So there's a continuity that we're seeing.
And she
to
said
that first
something
episode.
about also how she's hit hard times, or I don't know. She mentions that on the news. So, of course, that's kind of embarrassing, I'm sure, to Val.
Right. That's going to set us up moving into the rest of the episode because they've obviously somehow found her, and now she is back at the house. Yeah, we're in the kitchen of the Ewings, and I don't think that Lilimae is there, although maybe she's listening at the door. I don't know. She's hearing basically Val complaining.
Yeah.
And we're getting some of the backstory that apparently she has been in Los Angeles the whole time.
Yeah, for like a year and a half since she left.
Right, because remember, she was leaving to pursue some music lead, but we haven't heard anything about her since then. Wasn't there also a mention about her maybe going to Aunt June's?
Yeah.
Which, again, is kind of weird. That continuity is not great because later on her sister is actually Aunt Ginny in later seasons.
Aunt Ginny. Well, there could be an Aunt Ginny and an Aunt June.
Of course. Presumably, yes. Now, Lilimae does come in, and it's this moment where I think Val addresses her about this. And Lilimae says, oh, yeah, well, I stayed to pursue my joy in life, which is music.
Music, yeah.
And really, not Val, obviously. You know what I mean? The joy in life is the music, not Val, because she didn't stay for Val.
Yeah, but did she? Now, did Valine say she was a foolish old woman with a dream, or was that?
She might have just said that to Gary, but
okay.
I'm sure that Lilimae heard that,
Yeah.
right? Now, what's funny, of course, is that she gets a phone call, doesn't she, right there in the kitchen?
Yeah, the phone rings while they're in there, and that just happens to be A&R from Sandstone's Records would like to see Lilimae. So obviously this TV stint on the news helped her. You know, she got the word out.
I love this because even though it has been, I don't even know how many episodes, at least 20 episodes since we last saw this character, we are entrenched right back into who this person is. And Julie Harris does such a great job. Like, just picking right up on it. There's that moment where they want to see her, and then she's like, oh, well, let me check my schedule to see if I'm not already, preoccupied or whatever. And of course she's not. She's just doing that to make her seem more in demand. And, that's her. That's who she is. And you can see Gary and Val sort of rolling their eyes.
Right, and they do offer to take her there, but Lilimae is like, no, I'm going to go there on my own. I'm going to take the bus. Yes. And it's in Hollywood.
That's right. But before that, there is this kind of tense scene upstairs in the guest room, right? I think she's mending a shirt or something like that, Lilimae. And because this is where Al says, oh, I can take you or something. And she says, oh, no, sugar, you got to go to school or whatever like that. And she completely disses her daughter, what she's trying to do here by going back to school to become a creative writer. Because Lilimae does not want there to be two artistes that's what she says at one point, right? She's an artiste. That's what she says on the news.
Yeah, she says something to the effect that she's born with
You're
this talent.
You're either born with the talent or you're not. It's God-given.
So it's not like it could be learned.
Yeah, how can you learn that in school? Totally
she's very
dissing.
dismissive of Val.
I'm going to use a bad word right now. It's shitty. This is why people don't like Lilimae.
That's true. I thought, actually, that's what I thought the same thing when we were watching. I was like, yeah, this is the main reason why people don't like her.
Now, here's the funny thing is that, as we know, in this season and beyond, that, of course, Val is going to have some success in this endeavor of creative writing, and we know that Lilimae will not.
Do you remember Lilimae did say to Val, she said, well, have a nice time at school.
Oh.
It was really bitchy. I was like, wow.
Now we're going to head over to the garage at the Fairgates. There's very few scenes really with Karen. She was there at the viewing party, by the way, for the commercial. But here we have her, and the redometer goes off. For the first time in season 3, she is wearing a red top as she's going through more of Sid's things. Oh, we didn't mention, by the way, that she did go through his closet at Knots Landing Motors in the last episode. Well, now she's going through his stuff in the garage.
Yeah.
So she sees another one of his
Jumpsuits.
coveralls or whatever. And then Abby comes over, and Abby's asking the same thing of Karen. Do you think it would be okay if Diana came over to watch the phone while I go do X, Y, and Z? I can't remember. And there's a moment where Karen can see that Abby is seeing what Karen's doing, going through his stuff, but they don't really say anything at first. And Karen's like, yeah, I'm sure it won't be a problem, you know, when she gets home from school, whatever. And then there's a moment where Karen's like, Abby, would you like something?
Right, it was an icebreaker for those two, which I thought was good. It was needed because it was just too tense before.
Right.
So obviously...
And you could see that it really affected Abby, which I was happy to see, you know. Sometimes, even in these early, years, I'm thinking, oh gosh, Abby, like what?
Yeah, at this point, she's very desperate. I feel for her character in this episode.
For sure. Especially the next scene when, this is why she needed Diana to cover the phones, because she's going to see Mrs. Cunningham, right? Remember, she's the art teacher. She's Jeff's mom, the grandmother of her children. And so she's trying to put more heat on her. She's basically saying at this point, Abby, that I'm going to call the cops and have them come over to see you because aiding and abetting, child kidnapping could be considered a crime. So we're going to get you in trouble now, Mama Cunningham.
And Mrs. Cunningham, she's a hard one, isn't
she?
She's really hard-ass.
This is the actress Carol Bruce reprising her role from season 2. She says a great line. She says something like, oh, relax, Abby. Why don't you go have a drink?
Atta girl.
Crazy. But I love this. This is Abby being a fierce mother here and putting the pressure, because I think this is going to turn things around, right, in the next episodes.
So then, of course, we're at one of these great little 70s, 80s department stores.
Gosh, if only we could time travel.
Yeah, I guess Lilimae sees that when she gets off the bus and she just has to go in.
This is the dress she's going to wear for her meeting, right?
Right. And so we just see her coming out, and then this person comes out, this lady, and it turns out it's a store detective. And she's like, excuse me, but you took an item that doesn't belong to you. And Lilimae's like, what are you talking about? So they essentially arrest her for shoplifting. And it's this little turquoise dress, just like...
Well, is it teal? That's what she's trying to find out. She's trying to bring it out into the lighting so she could tell what the color was.
No, I was just going outside to check it in the natural sunlight. Yeah,
typical Lilimae, the same person who forgets to have cash when she's going on a taxi ride all the way out to Knots Landing to see her daughter the first time around.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, a little bit later in the day, I guess news has hit the cul-de-sac, right? Because there's a moment where Abby is trying to get help from Richard once again. What she's looking for is a subpoena to get the mother's phone records, right? If they can find out then where Jeff is, because certainly they've been in contact sometime over the last 5 weeks. Yeah. And they hug, right?
They hug, and of course, as soon as you know they hug, you know you're going to see Laura come out. Yeah. And it's like clockwork.
But, she doesn't seem too bothered by it because
she's okay.
She knows what's going on here. And I do think it's kind of sweet. I know people are going to think I'm crazy when I say this, but I actually kind of like that Richard has that relationship with Abby. Obviously, they are going to continue to have a relationship into the 4th season when they become business partners. So, I don't know. I just kind of think that's a cool through line, and it's modern. They are the modern couple, Laura and Richard, even if they are crazy. There's an understanding there. So, that's all good. And then we have Val coming over also to ask Richard for help because, obviously, Lilimae has been arrested. Gary called her and let her know. So, they're going to have to deal with that a little bit later on. And then we have this scene of Abby. What she's like
in the evening, and she's
writing a letter. Maybe
she's writing a letter. But I love this kind of stuff. This is my one of my favorite Hollywood things is when they're writing the letter, but they're speaking it in their head.
Yes. And then there's a knock on the door. Yeah. I guess, did she forget that she had a date? I think so.
Remember. It's Brad.
This guy named Brad.
Yeah, this is Brad. And Brad wants to take Abby out to dinner.
Right.
And he's like, just tonight, forget about all the problems.
But she can't, of course, because she has to stay by the phone. So she's almost like pushing him away. And then she realizes, well, a girl's got to eat.
Right.
So then it's, I guess, suggested that they order in some Chinese
exotic Chinese food.
Ooh, that's what everybody did in the early 80s. We've already seen this on Knots Landing, I think, with Ginger. Yeah.
That's right.
A little bit later on, we see that Brad and Abby have shared proteins. Both the Chinese food and perhaps something else. We have the camera panning over the food and across.
She's back in her favorite place, the bed.
She's wearing the pink satin robe that she first used to try to seduce Richard in season 2 when she was talking about the gurgle in her sink. So I love seeing that continuity of the clothes. And so they have certainly made love. And I think there's a moment where he's like, oh, was it as good enough for you as it was for me? And she says, well, to be honest, Brad, I can't really think of anything else but the kids. And he's like, oh, well, I still had a good time.
Yeah. Well, we might see more of him later.
You think?
Maybe.
We might see more on Seaview Circle. We'll put a pin in that for now. All right, now we move out to, I guess, the police station, or I don't know where we are exactly.
Courthouse. Something like that.
And we have Richard, and he is talking to Lilimae and Val and Gary, and it is suggested that she just... pleads guilty to this situation. If she does so, she will be let off with probation, and maybe she has to pay a fine.
Right. She's she would be a first-time offender. So, like, it would be the simplest thing to do. And obviously, everybody knows that she took this dress. But Lilimae is, like, adamant still. She's like, I did not take that dress.
Right.
I'm not pleading guilty. I was just
She's actually worried about her reputation. So she really wants that to stick, that was the excuse, even though it's, like, completely ludicrous.
Right.
Because she had it underneath her jacket. If she really was checking the way it looked like in the sunlight, you'd just have it out. You'd go walk out the door with a thing like this and say, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? So she's like, she's not going to do it. So we have this little bit of suspense, like what will happen. We'll get to the courtroom a little bit later. Before that, we do have final scene here with Brad and Abby. They're outside saying goodbye. And she kind of shoos him, sends him on his way. And what do you think happens when they're outside?
Ring, ring.
Finally.
The phone rings.
Right.
So, of course, she doesn't hear it for a couple rings, and then it's like, oh, boy. She runs back into the house, and, of course, she picks it up, and they have already hung up.
Ugh.
I mean, listen, if that happened to you nowadays, you would know it was probably a telemarketer anyway.
Following day, we're at the courthouse, and there are some hookers and maybe some other crooks, and they're all waiting as Lilimae sees the judge. Finally, Richard takes her up there. She admits at this point, right? She has convinced her to plead guilty.
She does plead guilty.
That's right.
But doesn't he ask her, like, how she was living?
Oh.
And she says, I'm an artiste.
Right.
Like, what do you do for a living? And
they're really leaning in heavy-handed on this. I would say the writing, to me, is a little clunky here because they're driving home the point that the judge is obsessed with how she's living, her conditions, and how she will be able to make a livelihood moving forward, right? Because she says, she's a musician or a performer or something like that. So he's like, oh, whatever. And then he immediately pulls Gary and Val in as sort of a condition of her being let go, not having to go to jail. He needs to be certain that she's going to have a place to stay.
Which I feel like that wouldn't have happened in real life at all.
No, and if it did, it would not have been this intense. Like, he really gives them a dressing down, makes them feel humiliated for not taking care of their aging mother, which I'm like, she's probably only like 53, you know, which,
but, and also he doesn't know the circumstances.
Sunset years is what he calls it. Her sunset years.
I thought
we're in our sunset years, Doug.
I'm beyond sunset.
I don't approve, Judge.
I don't like that.
You're in your sunset years.
Yeah, I mean, if we looked up how old she is, we could probably go back
it's like
and
the
look.
Golden Girls in the mid-'80s.
Right.
They were like, the Golden Girls, and they're like 53. You know?
53.
Oh, my gosh.
And like, oh, okay.
So I think it's totally ridiculous. It's just a plot device to force the character of Lilimae into the cast.
Yeah.
And this is kind of something I wanted to talk about, right? We talked about in the last episode, Saint Sid, right? Saint Sid had to die in order for Abby to sort of stretch her wings and move forward and become this wicked woman that she is, right? In later seasons. But in a way, Saint Don Murray also had to leave so that there was enough budget to pay for Miss Julie Harris.
Yeah, because she was a big actress.
Right, and I'm sure the producers don't want to lose that budget. So when Don Murray said he was going to leave, I'm pretty sure that was probably the reason why they brought Julie Harris back into the cast. So we have to really force Lilimae into the Ewing household some way because we've already established that Val is so anti-Lilimae.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge is really, really heavy-handed here. It is a little ridiculous.
And he gives her like a probation. It says for 6 months.
Yeah.
I hope they will take you into their hearts.
Right.
And Valine looks so angry at this point. I was like, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Like, great. Thanks a lot.
Right. And then the next scene, I believe, is in the kitchen of the Ewings again. And now we have Gary kind of almost delivering the same message as the judge. Now, Gary's had a much easier relationship with Lilimae, fair enough. But I think in this moment, he should be a little bit more supportive of Val because she's really upset about this predicament of having to take in the mother. We get the backstory again of what Lilimae did during her childhood, right? She would run off all the time at a moment's notice to follow her singing career. She was part of that whole reason why they lost Lucy was because the mom didn't take them in when she was in that moment of need. So this is big stuff. And Gary's just like, oh yeah, well, I think you should give her another chance.
Yeah, he's always really dumb when it comes to this stuff.
But again, like, this is part of a bigger thing here in the Knots Landing show. We've got to somehow figure out a way to have her stick around. So, okay, whatever. Val, I guess, agrees, at least temporarily, and then she goes up to the guest room, and of course, Lilimae has already packed up her things and
left
hit the
building.
road.
But she's not really that far gone because
she is
they
not.
go outside and there she is. So it's almost like, you know, when you're a kid and you're like, I'm going to run away from home.
The little stick with the handkerchief on the end with all your belongings. That I did that once.
I did once. I'm going to leave now.
Right. And Lilimae has always been a little childish, right? We even see that in an episode
dramatic.
later on when she joins the rest of the kids caroling. And they're like, oh, she's just like a little child. So she goes to the bus stop, which is conveniently at the very end of Seaview Circle. And she's going to get on the bus.
And let me tell you something. There is no bus stop there.
There is no bus stop
there. That's like
there.
suburban hell. There's no bus coming down that street.
Right. So here we have Val in another miraculous 180 because now she was like, oh, Mama, you're my only mama. And she literally says to her, she says, because Lilimae says, oh, I'm just going to go, I'll go to Aunt June's. And then Val says, oh, Mama, she don't want you.
She doesn't want you there.
She says something like, you never listen to the truth, which I thought was very telling. I know some people like that as well.
Yep.
Now, there's this moment where, okay, she's going to come back home. Again, I don't know if they really say she's like welcome to stay there forever necessarily.
No, they don't talk about that, but
Right.
it's clear that she's going to be there for a while.
Right. And the very next morning, she gets up really early and she makes this big country breakfast.
And it's funny because Val is getting ready to go jogging.
She's
back in the mustard.
Yes.
She's just getting ready to do her morning run. And
It's like Lilimae doesn't know these two at all because clearly they are very fit, the two of them, right? She's going out jogging and Gary has that body. But Lilimae says, oh no, we need to fatten you up. And they did put him in a very slim fitting shirt.
Well, he's always wearing slim fitting
but they made him
clothing.
look kind of skinny in that moment. And Val doesn't want any part of this breakfast. So she goes off to the staircase and she's just sort of like sulking.
Yeah, she looks pissed off again.
Yeah.
That was what I took from
Because
it.
this is going to change.
But Gary seems very
their
happy
life.
that he's going to get his country breakfast. He's going to have like whatever they do. She's made some muffins. She's making, I don't know. She's making, I would love a country breakfast.
I do love a country breakfast. I ain't going to lie. I love a country breakfast
Me too.
myself.
I can't wait. We're going to be going away soon to Tennessee, so I definitely plan.
We're
on
going.
having a country
We're
breakfast.
going to Clement's country. We're going to
Clement's
where
country.
we're going to where Val grew up, where she had little Maggie and
I'm gonna
Jeremiah and everything.
I'm going to bring my auto harp with me
Yes,
and try to make a few extra bucks.
For sure. Okay, well, that is the end of that episode, setting us up for that not new, but returning character to Knots Landing, who will be on the show, I believe, up until season 9. So a much longer run than Don Murray. All right, so let's get to that barometer once again. What did you think about this episode?
Well, this episode I did not rate as high as the last
No?
episode. No, I did not. So this one I put at a 2.5
Okay.
out of 5.
All right, yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. I was at a 2.5. 8.4.
Okay.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. We love Julie Harris. And like I say, she kills it in this role. But anytime you're going to have some of that honky-tonk music in the background, that brow meter score is going to drop. It has no choice.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, me too.
I liked the commercial, Gary's commercial. I thought that was really funny. I liked Jason playing the terrible trombone.
Did you notice that was sort of like, in a way, a callback to the second season with Brian Cunningham when he had the little trumpet?
Yeah, the
same
little
kind
irritating
of vibe.
trumpet.
So there were some cliches in these two episodes, right? We had the Kenny forgetting the suitcase, these kind of things, these cliches drop it a little bit, but it's still entertaining and fun to watch. All right. I think we're pretty much good to go on episodes 3 and 4, everybody.
All right.
Now, before we let you go, we do have a letter from the sack. Would you
love a letter from
care
the sack.
to read this? This is obviously where we address viewer questions or comments. This one is actually from YouTube. It's from someone who's already commented before, always gives us some good, clever commentary. Richard Pena. This is based off of the last episode we did covering the vigil and critical condition and Sid's passing. He's talking about kind of what we were, discussing about Gary and Val and how Val was so quick to forgive Gary after all his shenanigans in season 2. And this has been truncated just a little bit for time.
All right. OMG, you hit a point I've discussed. I think Gary and Val were addicted to each other, and I wanted to be addicted to Gary too. Damn that grasp on reality. Throughout the whole series, Gary and Val turn to each other, even at the detriment of their other relationships. At this stage, I think Val was still Gary's enabler. She would excuse his bad behavior up until she caught him in bed with Abby. I don't think Gary ever really loved Abby, Jill, or the telephone lady, whose name escapes me. He was in lust with Abby. He was never in love with her. He wanted to love Jill, but she just scratched an itch. He drove her crazy, literally by always being at Val's side. I also think Gary was addicted to bad choices. I remember watching as a kid. Even I could tell he was getting in way over his head. The guy selling him the parts radiated JR qualities. Gary should have picked up on that, but he didn't. As a kid, I never believed the story would end so tragically. I was shocked. I was so sad. That former little gay boy self of mine didn't have access to spoilers. I was so invested in the characters, I couldn't imagine someone wanting to leave a show. I know when I did the whole series rewatch that I was mad at Gary for his bad choices. And you're right, he did look good. Many people, I'm not confessing I was or am included, looked at that face and wonderful form-fitting shirts. They decided to do a vow and forgive him. People had a weakness about those darn blue shorts. Can you imagine Gary's nerve? Who walks around looking that good at a time when Sid needed all that support? Thank you, Richard.
Oh, my God. That is great. And I have to say, that question leaving us hanging does remind me a little bit of the contents of our next episode, which is going to be a surprise. But that is a hint. We're leaving you hanging.
Is that another pin?
It's the same pin.
Okay, we got a couple pins.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for joining us on what is probably, again, another long episode. We really appreciate your support. And if you have not already liked, commented, or subscribed to get us to 1,000, now is the time to do it.
While he's holding his breath, we will see you then. Back on the sack.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.